we have the almost obligatory 2-year time skip upon which Anastasia is pregnant with Nate's baby. Can we not? Hello and welcome to Connotation Points video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 49. Anastasia is obviously reeling, not quite sure what to do. She knows that there are a lot of cameras that capture the kiss. In this moment, she calls it a kiss and almost acts like it was consensual. I call it sexual assault since it is completely and utterly unwanted. Back over to the sideline, Anastasia tries to leave before she breaks down into tears, but Brady stops her, tells her to pull herself together because they have to wait for the score. But Anastasia says that she's done. I love how even Anastasia has a breaking point here. Aaron can call her a slut, call her parents trash, call her adoptive parents trophy seekers, tell her that she's a terrible person, but sexually assaulting her is where she's drawing the line. Nate shows up, takes one look at how upset that Anastasia is, and promptly punches Aaron in the face while screaming at him that sexually assaulting people is wrong. Brady makes Nate stop and then ushers Aaron and Anastasia back to the bench to wait for their score. Despite placing first, Anastasia can't summon up an ounce of excitement. She pointedly tells Brady that she's quitting anything to do with Aaron. Aaron naturally pitches a huge fit, saying all this stuff and trying to promote himself, trying to say that they'll work through this next week in their therapy session. However, sexually assaulting somebody on live TV isn't exactly something that you can simply work through in therapy next week. Aaron can't help but take one last pot shot before she completely walks away. You can't go solo. Don't fucking do this to me, Anastasia. After everything I've done for you, for fuck's sake, stop being such a stubborn bitch. You're not even good enough to compete alone. Oh my god, oh my fucking god, you're ruining my life. Yes, tell her that she's trash again. That'll make her love you. I've done nothing but trust you, Aaron. For nearly 2.5 years, I've put everything I've got into this partnership, into our friendship. All you've done is use me and manipulate me, slut shame me, tell me I'm not good enough to be your partner. Well, I'm finally hearing you loud and clear. You don't want me, and that's fine, because I don't want you either. I'd rather skate alone and risk failing than succeed with you. Winning is absolutely worthless when it comes at the cost of having to hate myself when I'm with you. Yes! She leaves with Nate, who takes her to the hotel to pick up her things before they head back to the school. On the drive back, her parents keep calling. She's worried that they'll be mad, but Nate insists that they won't be. He eventually accepts a call from her father with Anastasia's permission and explains the situation. As you might expect, not only is Dad not angry, but he's also pleased with Nate for having protected his daughter against such a creep. Back at her apartment, Anastasia is surprised to find the entire hockey team helping Lola to move all of her things out. Lola says, "We're moving," indicating that she also doesn't want to remain with Aaron. Nate asks like it's silly to and suggests that they'd go anywhere but to the hockey house. Chapter 50. 3 months later, Nate is called into Director Skinner's office. It's basically to apologize for the headache of Nate being benched after Aaron lied about how he got hurt. Turns out that they finally did an actual investigation. Why they waited months and months to get to the bottom of it and not when the incident occurred is beyond me. Better late than never, I suppose. Skinner also tells him that Aaron has transferred to UCLA. The news is quickly relayed to Anastasia. Both of them wish that Aaron had moved to Timbuktu, but decide that so long as he's no longer on campus, it's the best that they're going to get. Nate then goes to see Coach Faulkner, and the two of them discuss who's going to be team captain next year. I don't care about this, so moving on. When he gets back home, he finds the entire hockey team there eagerly awaiting Anastasia's cooking. As everybody digs in, he watches Anastasia and thinks how far that she's come. Epilogue. We have the almost obligatory 2-year time skip upon which Anastasia is pregnant with Nate's baby. Can we not? Don't get me wrong, because I am somebody who loves kids and wants to be a mom someday, but at the same time, I feel like this epilogue just felt randomly tacked on and forced. There was nothing wrong with the ending of Nate looking at Anastasia and thinking about how much that she'd changed over the course of the year that he'd known her. Anyway, so 2 years later, Anastasia got a gold medal and Nate won the Stanley Cup. In their celebration, Anastasia became pregnant. The book ends with Nate proposing to her. So, final thoughts time. It had a super rough start that made me kind of frustrated, but once the actual story found itself, it wasn't bad. I'm still in complete and utter agreement with that one reviewer. This was smut for smut virgins. There was nothing unique about those scenes that made this stand out in any way. The only reason why this took off was probably due to the fact that it was promoted heavily by people who don't typically read this sort of thing. However, as I was thinking about it, I've come to the conclusion that this book isn't actually a romance novel. If anything, I describe this as a coming-of-age story where a young woman must shuck off old and harmful habits. Nate being in the story had little to do with the actual plot, which revolved more around the Aaron situation than anything. The publisher simply pushed the romance aspect of it because romances do tend to sell well. And yes, the actual story did eventually reach a point where it wasn't a complete slog to read, but it also helped when I started to reframe everything in my mind about the intention. Was it the actual intention of the author to write something about getting away from the toxic people in your life, or was she simply focused on writing hockey bunny smut and thought that drama with the skating partner would be interesting? I don't actually know, but this is simply the way that it came off to me. That being said, how would I fix this? My main problem was that there were too many characters thrown at us. Even in the end, there were all of these things thrown at us, and it's like, who cares? It was such a huge failure and really made the beginning of the story an absolute slog. So I'd cut out every single character except for 5: Nate, Anastasia, Lola, one friend for Nate, and obviously Aaron. Who Nate's friend is doesn't exactly matter since they were all a little interchangeable in the end. I think that I would also focus more on what Anastasia and Aaron's relationship was before all of this started to go down, because it came up several times throughout the book, Anastasia being all like, you don't know him like I do, which is great and everything, but the readers also never saw this. At no point do we have any reason to cheer for Aaron. Giving us the old bait and switch with Aaron could be kind of interesting, but I also put a huge disclaimer here that writing something like that could be difficult to pull off. And I can't exactly see a lot of writers doing it well enough to the point of it making the book good. However, my biggest problem with this book was that it was so freaking long for no real reason. There were large chunks of stuff that never amounted to anything, such as the entire Christmas break. Everything. Exactly what purpose did Ian and Sasha bring to the table? What did knowing Nate's borderline abusive background add to the book? The same question for Anastasia's parents and her background too. Mainly, why did she write in Anastasia falling through the ice if the book itself was going to brush it aside and move on and then never once mention it again? Overall, this was the sheer definition of a 3-star book. Literally not one thing about this book stood out, and while it was non-offensive, I simply don't understand the hype around it. That being said, I will not be picking up any of the other books in the series. I simply do not care, especially seeing that the second one is about some random background character that I have zero memory of. Why would you write that? At least the third book is about Henry. Anyway, the moment that you've all been waiting for, which is the announcement of my next book, Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. I'll be starting that on Monday, so be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss anything. Thanks for listening to my Book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all of my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main Book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. Newly added to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same things on Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more Booksnarks starting at $1 a month. Also new is a 1-week free Patreon trial, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!